If you have ever played Red Dead Redemption, you have probably run into this guy. He is only described as the funny man, and when I first saw him in a train station, I didn't think much of him. However, I ended up finding him in a mine shaft after another mission I was doing, tied up on the ground. I promptly freed him and followed him out of the cave. However, after we left, he kept running. So, after we left, I followed him. I followed him past Benedict Pass for a while until I started actually recording this adventure because I wasn't sure what was going to happen or how far we were going to go. He's at a constant jog, which gives some sense of urgency, meaning he must be late to something or has somewhere he urgently needed to go, which piqued my curiosity and really fueled my drive in figuring out where exactly he was going. I theorized at the time that he might be going to Critchley's Ranch, but I had to make sure. Critchley's Ranch was the only closest thing I could tell that he could be going to that could also be civilization. At some point, we came up upon a pair of rocks, and after I jumped over them, the guy stood in awe at my peak athletic ability. It wasn't until afterwards I realized, when we kept walking, he might have been looking at the sun rising for a moment, which, if that was programmed into the game, is a real beautiful moment to program into the NPCs. And if not, it was a cool moment for me at least. We arrived at Critchley's Ranch, but we left pretty quickly as the funny man immediately took a 90-degree turn away from the ranch, completely ignoring it and the farm animals that were yelling at it. After being slightly thrown off, I decided he must be going to Armadillo, the second closest thing that we could have been going to in the new direction we seemed to be going anyways. It was also the largest piece of civilization so far that I had found, except for Thieves' Landing, but that doesn't count. We passed a cowboy getting ready to take a wee-wee when something strange happened. A woman by a carriage started to call for help, and like the noble citizen that this man was, he turned around and fled. And as the noble citizen I am, I promptly followed him because, number one, women are scary, and number two, my task was to follow him, not help this lady out. I don't know who she is. Eventually, we turned back around, having her despawned, and we started to continue over to Armadillo. Unfortunately, Armadillo was not our destination either. We instead took a branching path past Armadillo towards McFarland's ranch. I was confused by how far he was going to go, because we had already gone nearly halfway through the width of the entire map, and I was getting pretty bored. At some point, I even shot a deer, which scared the man, but we kept going, so that's good. As we were going on the trail, we ended up breaking off of it and going up a hill from the McFarland's ranch. I opened the map to see where we could be going next, since we are now just directly avoiding the ranch, and I saw that we were actually going to what seems to be the next quest location in Pike's Basin for the funny man. I was ecstatic, because this meant two things. One, we were almost there and I could finally stop following this man that I just met. And two, I might be able to see how the next quest will get set up. Will I actually see him get tied up? Can I stop it before it happens and just skip the entire quest entirely? I didn't know, and I was excited to find out. At some point, we reached a cliffside, and the man suddenly stopped moving. I waited for a little bit before realizing he probably doesn't understand how he's going to get down, and there wasn't really a good way to get down that was within a certain radius of us. So, like any good person would do, I gently pushed him off the side of the cliff and followed him down. We were both recovered safely, and after getting a quick survey of the land, we kept walking. As we neared a campsite of what I assumed would be where the next quest was supposed to start, I noticed something that turned this fun little adventure into a very scary situation. There was a copy of the man, a clone if you will, already tied up and yelling for help. The original man just stared at himself tied up. I was beginning to become freaked out because what was I supposed to do? Do I untie the man and let him free and now there's just two of them? Or do I kill the other one and follow the new man? I decided to untie the new man, who thanks me and begins to book it away because there's bandits around. leaving me and the first man at the campsite, who did not despawn after the cutscene. Unsure of my next moves, I stayed with the original man, who stood for a while before eventually moving toward the fire and poking it with a stick he found on the ground. After a little bit, he got up again and began to walk to a crate. However, he stopped about 3 feet in front of it before pulling out a hammer, which I guess he just had on him the whole time, and started banging a nail into the air. I was shocked, watching him repeat this cycle of poking the fire and then hammering a nail into the air repeatedly. I decided that this was probably where this adventure would end. So now I had a new goal, to follow the new guy. Unfortunately, I couldn't remember where he had gone, so I had to restart the mission. I totally didn't die via bandits and was given the gracious opportunity to follow him this time. Unfortunately, there were still bandits everywhere when I returned, so we went in circles as he ran in fear of dying, which is valid. I eventually began to kill them off one by one as we made our way around the gorge and through their base camp. We're making really good progress until I accidentally shot him in the back.
Fuck.
We were making really good progress until I accidentally shot him in the back. The auto-aim for some reason thought I wanted to aim at him and not the bandits that were shooting at me and him, unfortunately ending his life. This is something that happens quite a lot actually in this game, where if someone that is your ally is in front of you, as well as another bandit is right next to them or around them, your gun will more likely than not aim at your ally, and if you're panicked enough, you will end up just shooting them instead of the bandits, or being able to correct your aim, which is a whole other thing that we can talk about at another point, but I probably won't because I don't care enough to do so. However, this gave me one more chance by returning again to the beginning, starting all over again, following him through the gorge, killing everyone very carefully. We ended up exiting the gorge and onto a path toward Armadillo. We're branched off and things were going fine until out of nowhere
He's dead.
he just died. I was incredibly confused, as there was no gunshot to be heard, and to me, there was no other way you could die in this game other than falling from a great height, which we were on a very flat, empty plain. I walked around the area where I learned that there was actually a snake that bit him, which I only learned after it bit me and I fell to the ground. I returned the snake's offer for a kiss with a bullet shot in its face, and by stealing its skin. I could have gone back to the beginning of the quest and tried again to follow him to wherever he was going to go anyways. But unfortunately, I decided not to because it was very likely that we were just going to go to wherever the next quest was going to be, and the exact same situation that happened at Pax Basin was going to be repeated. But it was still really cool to experience this little adventure that I went on. As I played the game after this experience, I learned that there's a lot of NPCs that just kind of walk away after you finish interacting with them, and I highly recommend following them. It's fun in a way I cannot describe unless you appreciate the world that the creator built for you to soak in. I would have never watched the sun set over the giant cliffside gorge if I was not following the funny man for about 30 minutes. Also, you get a really cool and unique experience of seeing two of the same NPC not really interacting with each other, but in some weird way acknowledging each other's existence with having them have to look at each other. Of course, in the game, that's not really how that works, but when you're immersed enough into the experience and into the game, it creates a really interesting and scary effect. Thank you for watching, and remember, don't eat too much soap, especially if it's solid.